Syracuse doesn't have Tommy DeVito under center. It doesn't have Andre Sisco or Trill Williams in the secondary. The Orange didn't get a win against Wake Forest. But it's not about what Syracuse has. It's about what they're looking for. Hope. Hope that true freshman Jacobian Morgan builds on a flawless debut drive against Wake Forest. Hope that Sean Tucker can return from injury and run with the speed and power that has him over 5 yards per carry. Hope that standouts Garrett Williams and Afatu Melifonwu will be ready for Boston College's pass-heavy offense. The future is here early. Cuse Countdown starts now.
It's Cuse Countdown on CitrusTV. The battle for Northeast pride is upon us, Syracuse and Boston College. Here to break it all down, Johnny Gadamowitz and Jacob Morris. I'm Gill Gross. And we start with some news as it pertains to who won't be playing in this game, or any college football game for that matter. Defensive back Trill Williams has opted out for the remainder of the 2020 season and now targets the NFL draft. The move mirrors his good friend and fellow defensive back Andre Sisco, who opted out after sustaining a season-ending injury earlier. Now, these two were nicknamed the Wonder Twins, so I guess it makes sense that they would do exactly the same thing. Williams was a prized 4-star recruit from downstate New York, and he panned out in a big way. A couple of signature defensive touchdowns over his 3 years at Cuse. He was the second highest rated slot corner in the country, according to Pro Football Focus this season. This is a big loss for Syracuse. My question for you, Johnny, is it a bad look for the program that 2 players here have left prematurely?
Gil, I'm not so concerned that it's a bad look for the program. My area of concern is more on the field, especially, talking about the safety position. You're going to look at guys like Jihad Carter, Amon Greenwood. Can they step it up? I mean, this Syracuse defense, Jacob, has really been atrocious, allowing nearly 40 points per game over the past 4 contests. Obviously, Sisco declaring for the draft, maybe the best player on this SU team heading into this year. Now Williams, maybe you get a third in Afatu Melifonwu down the road. We'll have to see, but at the end of the day, the on-field production is what concerns me more.
Johnny, I'm with you. If I'm panicking about anything, if I'm Syracuse, I'm panicking about the on-field, not so much off the field. Trill Williams hasn't played since the Liberty game due to injury. If he has NFL draft plans, which he clearly does, this decision makes sense. Why come back in a one-win football team, and risk re-injuring yourself? This decision makes sense. I don't think it's a bad look for the Syracuse program as a whole.
That's fair, and now I guess the question is, does Ife Melifonwu follow? Let's talk more about this Wake Forest game last week. What if I told you the most exciting drive for Syracuse was in garbage time? It was. The score was 38-7 Wake, and there were under 5 minutes to play. Dino Babers made a change at quarterback and allowed freshman Jacobian Morgan to throw the ball for the first time in his career. Folks, he was flawless. 7 for 7, 57 yards, and a touchdown to Luke Benson. Now, Dino Babers didn't sound impressed after the game, but Babers might be playing some mind games there. The reality is Morgan has passed his first test with flying colors, and now we wait whatever's next. As for the run game, Sean Tucker missed his 2nd straight with injury, but Cooper Lutz had a career performance. The redshirt sophomore cracked 100 all-purpose yards. He was like a joystick out there, very quick, very slippery. Now, this is a player who didn't play any running back until last spring when he was moved from slot receiver. It's the first time Lutz is seeing significant playing time with Syracuse, so it's good news. He seems up to the task. The offense as a whole really can't say the same. The Orange only managed 221 total yards. The third down struggles continued with a 3 for 11 mark, and Rex Culpepper threw another 2 interceptions. Syracuse actually had a streak of 13 consecutive games winning the turnover battle. Now that Rex is start, they've lost that category in 2 straight. This offense is averaging 19 points per game. That's dead last in the ACC. It's been that way from start to finish this season for Syracuse. Wake Forest is just the latest example. Maybe Jacobian Morgan can provide a spark, and if Dino Babers feels that way, he certainly didn't show it publicly.
No, I'm glad he didn't fumble the snap. I'm glad that it looked like he could throw the football. But again, I wouldn't put too much stock on that. You know, that's the end of the game. We're running out the clock on ourselves, and those guys are giving him those throws. I'm pretty sure he didn't get blitzed. I'll go back and check the tape. But that's like throwing 7-on-7. That's not like a real football game.
Again, maybe Coach Babers just trying not to show his hands. He doesn't want Boston College to know who to game plan for. I guess the question is, Johnny, if you were the head coach, who would you start?
Well, Gill, let me set the scene for you. The Orange are a 1-6 team. And Dino Babers might continue to stress the idea of playing for now. But look, Babers would be doing a disservice to Orange fans everywhere if he wasn't at least starting to think about 2021. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but a redshirt senior quarterback does nothing for you next season. And look, it would be one thing if Babers was really on the hot seat, say, fighting for his job. Then he'd want a quarterback who gives him the best chance to win games. But I have two issues with that train of thought. One, Dino's locked up long term. He's not going anywhere. Two, based on what we've seen from Culpepper, I'm not quite sure he does give SU the best chance to win now. In the 3 games that the Florida native has been at the helm for the Orange, he's amassed more than 200 yards just once. He's hit above the 50% completion mark just once. And the icing on the cake, he's thrown more INTs than touchdowns. In the little action that we saw from Jacoby and Morgan, however, he was perfect. 7 for 7, 57 yards, and most importantly, led the Orange into the end zone. The biggest argument that number 17 had going for him was that he knows this offense better than anyone else on the roster. But this offense seemingly changes their identity every week. No Sean Tucker last week. No Taj Harris the week before that. How can Culpepper know the offense best when he doesn't even know who his weapons are on any given day? Coach Babers, come on. You've got nothing to lose. Roll with the freshman. If he looks overmatched, heck, pull him. The bottom line is this team needs a spark, and that spark could be Jacoby and Morgan.
Well, it was certainly a spark last week. Small sample size, but night and day difference when Morgan entered the game for one last drive against Wake Forest. You see he went 7 for 7, 57 yards, a touchdown. That's just about what Rex Culpepper did, but Culpepper had 3.5 quarters to do that. So there's 2 parts to Johnny's argument. There's the future and the present, and Johnny, you think that Jacoby and Morgan might be better in both cases. Jacob, what should be the priority here for Babers? Is this decision about winning now or developing for the future?
Well, I'm with Johnny on both fronts. Why not prioritize both? You can check the box of winning now because I think Jacoby and Morgan is the better quarterback, but at the same time, why not develop a quarterback for next year? We don't know what the deal is with Tommy DeVito. You're going to have him back next year, or maybe you don't. Why not develop Jacoby and Morgan now? Incidentally, he's the same guy that gives you the best chance to win games.
That's what everyone's going to be watching for at the start of this one. Who will be under center? Coming up next, we'll tell you about a Boston College team you might not recognize at all from past years. It's Cuse Countdown. Stick with us.
Superheroes? Just 4 brothers who hate bullies and love this city. Gear up, guys.
Back on Cuse Countdown with Jacob Morris and Johnny Gadamowitz, I'm Gill Gross. The Steve Addazio era is over in Chestnut Hill after 7 seasons. Boston College has given Jeff Hafley the keys. He's got an NFL background, but really made his mark at Ohio State as defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, that is. Now he's got his first head coaching job.
Yeah, he does. And Gill, you know, this is a guy that really has been a defensive mind throughout his coaching career. But it's interesting because this Boston College team really prides itself on their offense, averaging 28 points per game. But look, Hafley is a guy who is charismatic, full of energy. He's got his players bought in to the winning mentality that he brings to the table. BC was sub 500 last year. Jacob, they're already above 500 this year, and they have 3 very winnable games left on the schedule.
Hafley is a defensive guy through and through. He spent almost his entire career working as a defensive assistant. Gill, you mentioned it. He finally lands at Ohio State last year. He made an immediate impact in Columbus. The Buckeyes were the 72nd ranked defense the season before his arrival. Last season, the 2nd best defense in the country. Make no mistake, that was a massive reason he was brought to Chestnut Hill. Boston College, the 5th worst defense in the country last year.
Well, with Hafley came a new offensive coordinator in Frank Signatelli, and he was the main reason why quarterback Phil Jurkovec chose to transfer from Boston College to Notre Dame. Or the other way around, that is.
Yeah, the redshirt sophomore, obviously the hype is there, coming from one of the best football programs in the country. And he wasn't just some bench rider for the Fighting Irish. He saw the field in 6 games and showed flashes of what he can do. 12 for 16, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, all combined. He's a real difference maker, but Jacob, there are times when he looks a little bit unpolished. I think back to rookie year Josh Allen in the NFL. He's got a huge arm, and he's got the ability to extend plays with his legs, but there's some work to be done.
He might be unpolished, Johnny, but there's been a whole lot of positives for Jurkovec this year. This guy was a massive get for Jeff Hafley and his staff in their first season. Jurkovec was a high 4-star recruit coming out of high school. That might not blow your mind, but to put that in perspective, he's the 4th highest recruit in the last 20 years to play at BC. Early in the season, he's lived up to the hype.
Love the Josh Allen comparison. It's on point. His favorite receiver weapon is Zay Flowers, and he's having a huge breakout year.
Yeah, Zay Flowers worked out over the summer with Antonio Brown, and so far this season, it looks like it's paid off. Flowers is an explosive option on the outside. He's a deep threat every time he touches the field. We talked about Jurkovec opening up that offense. 341 receiving yards for Zay Flowers last season. He's well over 500 already this season.
Yeah, and he's already got 2 games this year where he's hit over the 160 mark. Back against Pitt on October 10th, he went for 162 and 3 touchdowns. But his biggest contribution, just the attention he demands. The middle of the field opens up. Opposing DBs are so concerned with him, it allows guys like tight end Hunter Long to really get open over the middle of the field for those 3 or 4 yard checkdowns. And he is a nightmare for opposing corners, and expect that to be the case this weekend against SU.
Absolutely, he's a problem. On the defensive side, the Eagles lean on their linebackers, especially Isaiah McDuffie. This is a Buffalo native who Syracuse offered, and the Orange are left wishing they got him.
Yeah, McDuffie is a guy that really broke on the scene back in his sophomore year for the Eagles. He played in all 12 games, started only 6 of them at strong side linebacker, but was still 2nd in the team in tackles. 2019, however, dealt with some injuries, kept him sidelined more than he would have hoped, but 2020, Jacob, has been the year that he has really put it all together.
Johnny, Jeff Hafley is on the record describing McDuffie as a guy who, quote, just runs around looking to hit and hits everything that moves. McDuffie is 2nd in the country in tackles. He's a guy who seems to be in on every single play, and he's a huge reason this BC defense has taken a step forward this season.
Hafley has compared him to the Water Boy. Adam Sandler, great film if you haven't seen it. All of these weapons were on display last week against Clemson. Boston College was actually up 18 points in the first half. It required the largest Tigers comeback since the 60s. Jacob, what did you learn about BC?
Well, BC played a really good first half in this one, and then it kind of all fell apart in the second half. Did whatever they wanted in the first half, ran all over the Tigers offensively. They returned a fumble for a touchdown, faked a field goal. In the second half, only 66 total yards. Regardless, a tough loss for the Eagles, but I think it showed Jeff Hafley and Boston College might be here to stay, John.
And it wasn't just the offense that collapsed either for BC, the defense as well. I mean, you talk about a guy like Travis Etienne, who, look, we know how powerful he can be, but he just carved up this BC defense, went for 84 yards on the ground, 140 through the air, and this isn't the first time that BC has had a heck of a first half, and then fell completely flat in the second half. A few weeks back against UNC, the Eagles went into the locker room at the half 21-16. They only scored 6 points in the third and fourth quarter.
BC was certainly doing their thing in the first half, throwing it all over the field, having unbelievable success against the top-ranked team in the country. So let's go to Jacob for a closer look at a revamped BC offense.
Gill, last season the Boston College offense was one-dimensional. Only 6 teams in all of college football ran the ball more than the Eagles. This season, it's a completely different story, and that's due to the versatility of quarterback Phil Jurkovec. Let's take a look at the tape. Boston College loves to design plays to get Jurkovec outside of the pocket. Here, he fakes the handoff, bootlegs left, and now he sees the incoming Duke defender at 6'5", 227. Jurkovec combines physicality and athleticism to escape, keeps his eyes up, and finds his target in the back of the end zone for 6. Jurkovec's ability to be successful on designed rollouts has been huge for Boston College. But what's really taken the Eagles' offense to the next level this season has been Jurkovec's ability to improvise when the play breaks down around him. Here against North Carolina, watch as a Tar Heel defender gets a free shot at Jurkovec. We talked about the strength. He escapes the defender. But now, look at the way he keeps his eyes downfield the whole entire play while he's under duress. That allows him to find his wide receiver streaking across the field for a huge gain. Jurkovec turns what should have been a 10-yard loss into a 30-plus yard gain. Last season, the Eagles' offense was handicapped with Dennis Grosel under center. This year, Phil Jurkovec has used his athleticism and his ability to throw on the run to transform the once run-heavy Eagles into one of the more feared offenses in the ACC.
Results are there. Left side of the screen is the last year under Steve Adazio. Right side is this season with Jeff Hafley at the helm. Boston College essentially goes from a team that ran the ball on nearly every play to a team that passes the ball on nearly every play. They're unrecognizable, Johnny.
Yeah, and Gill, a big reason why, obviously, A.J. Dillon off to the NFL. So at the end of the day, look for them to throw the ball much more than expected.
Next on Cuse Countdown, we play Fact or Fiction. A look at the future of Syracuse football on Cuse Countdown.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Game time on Cuse Countdown. Johnny Gadamowitz, Jacob Morris, Gill Gross. We're going to play a little fact or fiction because I'm going to make some statements and I'll make no promises that they're sensible, but we'll just have to find out. And Johnny, we start with quarterback Tommy DeVito. A simple question, will he start next season?
Gill, this is a tough one, but I'm going to have to go with fiction. Look, you look at Tommy DeVito, his record as a starter, 6-10, and I know he's Dino Babers' boy. But if you look at Tommy DeVito week 1, 2019, Jacob, and you compare him to Tommy DeVito from 2020, pre-injury, of course, For me, I just haven't seen enough improvement. We know there are true freshmen all over the place. It alludes to the fact that Rex Culpepper hasn't been great. Heck, let's start to develop somebody and then perhaps groom them to be the next QB1.
Johnny, I disagree with you. I'm going fact. Look, it's no secret. Tommy DeVito hasn't been the all-world quarterback he was projected to be when he came to Syracuse, but he's still the most talented quarterback on this roster. There's plenty of time to go to freshman Jacoby and Morgan. Give him time to develop. Ride with DeVito next season.
Oof. The fact that we're even having this conversation, we would have never guessed that a couple years ago. Let's move on to the offensive coordinator, Sterling Gilbert. Will he lead the Syracuse offense next season? Fact or fiction that he will?
Gill, fact again, and this is simple for me. There's just no way that you can accurately judge Sterling Gilbert on his first season given all of the circumstances. No starting quarterback, loses his starting running back, suspensions all over the place. How can you give this guy the can after 1 year? Plus, we know about his relationship with Dino Babers. Dino Babers is going to be back next year. Gilbert will be back as well.
Jacob, I know it's not entirely his own fault, but still, if you're an offensive coordinator in today's day and age, it's all about adjusting, making those adaptations. This offense relies way too heavily on the deep ball and the little RB sweeps for 3 or 4 yards on the outside. Got to change it up. New OC next year for the Orange.
Johnny's giving him no slack. It's like he's one of those people on Twitter. Let's go to the tight ends because a lot of people are calling for them to do more in this offense. They really haven't done much. Is it the coaching? Is it the fact that they're not getting targets? Here's my statement. Tight ends Aaron Hackett and Luke Benson are bad.
This is fiction. This is fiction. Look, if you look back to last year, Aaron Hackett was one of Tommy DeVito's favorite targets, 6 touchdowns. That was good for second on the Orange, second for all of tight ends in the ACC.
I'm going fact here. They've done nothing to impress me, even against Clemson. Aaron Hackett with a brutal drop. This is fact in a big way.
Well, Luke Benson has 5 touchdowns on 12 catches. It's crazy. Next on Cuse Countdown, we bring in the voice of the Eagles. John Meterparel is here to drop some knowledge.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
We're back on Cuse Countdown, and we welcome a 4th member to the crew. It's the voice of the Eagles. John Meterparel is here to talk some ball. John, we appreciate you being here. So we're now 1 year removed from the Steve Adazio era. And what has been the most notable shift within the program in Jeff Hafley's first season?
Well, I think it's a culture change. I really think the team has bought into what Hafley's preaching. He talks about his process, and it's a process of getting this team to respect the opponent every week, but really just focus on that one opponent. Don't look too far ahead. Keep everything in front of you. It's a cliche-ridden book, but it's working. They are 4-3. They easily could be 6-1. It's really that simple, and he'll readily admit that. But he's not looking ahead. He's not looking behind. And I think the team is refreshingly bought into that. Kirk Herbstreit mentioned that this week about Jeff Hafley. how it's made quite an impact on the BC program. And to his credit, along with the rest of his coaching staff, everybody has bought in.
So we know Phil Jurkovec came in from Notre Dame this past January. He was then granted eligibility in August. In your eyes, what's allowed him to mesh with the team so quickly, and what's been most impressive about him as a player so far this season?
Well, Phil Jurkovec is one of the best guys I've seen in terms of reading a defense. We haven't seen that at BC for a long time, probably since the Matt Ryan era. He's averaging 268 yards per game through the air. That's third in the ACC. He can riddle you if you give him time, and not only if you don't give him time, he can buy time, so he can elude the pass rush. And he bounces off people because he's so big. He's 6'5", 226 pounds. He's really Ben Roethlisberger-like in that regard. He's from Pittsburgh. He grew up loving the Steelers and Roethlisberger, so that's an interesting comparison. But he's a smart guy. He came in late. He had to learn a new offense, but he's very motivated. And looking ahead to Syracuse, he knows that this defense is opportunistic. They lead the nation in turnovers with 17, and Jurkovec's only thrown 4 interceptions. So the good thing about him, too, he can also beat with his legs on occasion.
John, Syracuse and BC is not so much a fan rivalry, but do you think the coaches see it as such, given the Northeast recruiting battles that these schools engage in?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I think, as Dino Babers said this week, they respect each other in that regard. And there's oftentimes a Syracuse coaches leaving the room and BC coaches entering the house. So that's what you're going to deal with. I think similar schools, similar academic profiles, similar philosophies. Things have changed a little bit under Jeff Hafley. Steve Adazio definitely knew all about Syracuse and how rugged they were and on and off the field. And he coached at Syracuse. But Jeff Hafley's that Northeast guy, too. He respects them a lot. So there's a natural rivalry. It's good that they play every year, kind of quirky that BC's playing at Syracuse again this year. They'll be in Chestnut Hill next year playing the Orange. But I think it's great for the fan bases as well.
All right, John Mita Perel, thanks so much. Let us head straight to predictions now. And Johnny, we'll start with you. Who do you got here, Syracuse, BC?
So, Gill, I like BC, and I like them pretty big. 38-21. Look, here's the stat you need to know. For Syracuse, over the last 4 games, here are the numbers they've given up. 38, 47, 38, and 38. Give me a fourth 38 points given up, 4 out of the last 5 weeks. I like the Eagles big. SU drops to 1-7 on the year.
Johnny, I'm with you. 42-17. Boston College takes this one. We've touched on it all show. Phil Jurkovec and that Boston College offense, they're going to be far too much for the Syracuse defense. You mentioned it. 4 straight weeks, 30 or plus points given up by the Syracuse defense. Boston College makes that 5 straight. Give me BC. Give me BC big.
I agree with both of you guys, but I got it a little bit closer than that. 31-30, the Eagles just sniffed this one out. I actually think that Syracuse overperforms in this one. I think it's a good scheduling spot for the Orange to catch BC coming off of the Clemson game, which is, it's a physically and mentally taxing game to go through. So for that reason, I don't think we get the best out of BC. It's also a good stylistic matchup for Syracuse, because Boston College really likes to throw the ball, and if you're going to beat Syracuse, you don't really beat them through the air, you beat them on the ground. So I really like the matchup, guys.
For sure, Gil, and I think, it is one of those opponents that the Orange can keep it close with. If you're looking at teams across the ACC, BC is definitely one that's within Syracuse's reach.
Yeah, but I still think Phil Jurkovec far too much.
Yeah, well, we will see. It should be a good one. And that's all the time we have here on Cuse Countdown. From Gill Gross, Johnny Gadamowitz, and Jacob Morris, thanks so much for sticking with us. Enjoy the game, everyone, and we'll see you next time.